It's time for me to do a fix.
Project Nigel messes a boot with an MG ZS180 called Charlotte Church.
The car that I have previously named Charlotte Church, because of many obvious things, it's so obvious, it is due a couple of issues to be sorted out. Formerly known as James Martin's MG ZS180, it's now mine, and it's time I got this car ready for an MOT. So far I have done a couple of unnecessary jobs, such as taking the front bumper off, such as taking the side skirt off. What I need to do is find out now why the fob's not working. What's up with that? I removed the front bumper because I suspected the horn didn't work, because it doesn't work, and also as a precaution for when I fix the slam panel bonnet thingy so it closes properly, in case it closes but won't open again. So it wasn't an entire waste of time, but it is going to make some things inconvenient. The horn doesn't work. You shouldn't need the ignition on, but it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. Oh, the hazard lights are flashing. We're going to have some Pectron issues with this for sure. I suspect that the problem might be down to this here, the wiring in the steering thing, the clock spring. So I'm going to switch on the engine so I can turn the steering easily, whilst I simultaneously press the horn and see whether anything that happens. Engine on, wheel turning. And nothing at all. Okay, great. So the next thing I need to look out for is the relay for the horn. Yes, I've moved the car. Now let's consider something here. This car, being a facelift model, has the Pectron BCU rather than the Lucas, and as we all know, they're crap. The chances of this car being fixed without the BCU being taken out and fixed itself are quite slim. Symptoms of a faulty BCU on the Pectron unit: doors that don't open on the fob, heater blower becoming erratic, and a horn that doesn't work, electric windows that don't operate. The BCU, of course, can be fixed. And not only that, on the ZS and 45 models, it's not in an unbelievably awkward place in the car, unless I am horribly mistaken. It is located just behind there, and judging by the look of that screw that's been taken out and not put back in properly, I would suggest somebody's already been having a look. As you can now see, the BCU is accessible just behind here. Just behind there it is. You can see it. It's just there. A lot more accessible than you'd really need. Now, obviously, I don't provide instructions on how to do things on this channel because I don't want to be liable for you getting it wrong. But you basically have to take this out, unplug it, take this off. It's just a matter of screws and things, unplugging bits, and then you can actually access it. Is that, do I need to move this entirely out of the way to get to it? Maybe. But first of all, what I'm going to do is just give the BCU a gentle tap, and that might spark some of the relays and think, hang on a minute, aren't we supposed to be doing something here? Well, it didn't work. There are a couple of more bits to unplug, and then the best thing would be to just remove this altogether. And that is it. Not too difficult, actually. You're going to get a few minor plastic cuts on your fingers, etc. I always do. Plastic bits are quite sharp. By the way, I've also noticed that the washer jets don't work, and I would imagine that that's probably BCU related as well, although I don't entirely know. Charlotte Church has just been moved back to its original position for two reasons. Reason number one, I'm going to switch jobs for the day. What you can see behind me is a Honda, which I'm going to look after for the rest of the day and make nice. Ready for a review tomorrow. It belongs to Baroness Mustard, whereas this, of course, is mine, and it's not going to be going anywhere for a while because the BCU has left the car. It's pretty clear, I reckon, that the BCU is at fault for the horn not working, for the wash wipe not working, for the remote fob not working, and then possibly and potentially lots of other things as well. It just so happens that there is another Mustard about who is quite good at fixing this kind of thing, and he, known as Senior, has taken away the BCU for Charlotte Church. Let's see what happens. 3 days later, and I have picked up my Pectron BCU for the ZS180 from Senior Mustard, who has hopefully fixed it. Here it is. Inside are a bunch of unreliable relays, the Pectron relays that obviously made so cheaply in the first place that the coils burn out and they become completely useless, and in turn often making one of these ZS's, 25s, 45s, etc. a scrap car because replacing it is expensive. But I happen to have a Senior Mustard in my life who is very, very good with a soldering iron and with all things electrical. He's a very clever chap. He's a bit like me, except he's put his intelligence to something useful. It's funny to think that how I am struggling these days with my eyesight. Senior Mustard just puts his glasses on and he can actually do that kind of incredibly intricate soldering work. And here we have the BCU from Charlotte Church, which is out here. One of the problems with this is that the fob doesn't work, but it won't work at the moment because the battery's disconnected. Let me just explain something. When Senior Mustard took this thing apart, he found that 3, or is it 4, of the 5 relays were in fact open circuit. And that means they don't work. The Pectron relays have now been replaced by other relays that do the same job but better. In other words, more reliable. So if this works, I can expect the horn to work again, the central locking to work, and the wash wipe, and whatever else that is controlled by those relays to then work again. There we go, that's back in place. Locks, unlocks. It's looking positive. What else? The next thing that is required for its MOT, that isn't, by the way, is the horn. Still nothing there. That works then. The horn did work once before. I pressed it and it did it. Now the thing is, if that was because of the relay in the BCU, it just wouldn't have done anything at all. So I think it probably double fault here, that something within the steering wheel is not right. Oh, I can control the fan speed. What's EO mean though? Oh, I can control the temperature to a degree. Nope, there's definitely still something not quite right about that, which is what I suspected. It's just that these buttons all appear to be working now. The easiest thing I can do now is just to take this off, simply replace it with another one, and see if it works. T27, by the way. Steering wheel off. Kevin Craven in building.
Cheers.
We've got the 45 steering wheel attached. What are you crowing about?
Hello, Mustard. Calling Mustard. Over and out.
Got to go. It's Tuesday. Time to get back to the MG ZS180 called Charlotte Church, and I'm determined that this car will be ready to go on the road for next month. That might look a little bit unlikely at the moment, but I really don't think it is, because I'm not talking about it being back on the road in, you know, perfect condition, but just re-MOT'd, ready for use. Oh, hang on. No steering wheel. What I'm going to do is just have another little dabble with that horn and just check that it's not the horn after all. Otherwise there's a fault somewhere down the line getting to the BCU. So I figure that if there's a problem with a relay somewhere still on the board, then by having this straight into the fuse box will give me an answer. Nothing. Looks like Charlotte's trying to perfect her Yorkshire accent. Charlotte now has her face back on, which is a good thing. And it will be a happy face, because what's about to happen next? Well, the BCU is fixed. Start it up. We have the wash wipe, and we have the horn, and the central locking immobilizer. That means success is on its way. Although it looks really tatty and what have you, this car could be well on its way for an MOT, and next month, if I can manage it, I will drive it with no headlight, and I don't really care. I don't care about that. I don't even care about the door card not being on, but I can manage that quite easily. The welding doesn't need doing. Even the trailing arms are actually okay. They look a little bit crusty in places, but they haven't fallen apart. So they might need replacing in a couple of years, but for the moment, they're still fine. That means a success. Something good has actually happened here. I don't really care about the cracked bumper, or the missing headlining, or the damage on the door, or the lack of peel on the wing, or any of that stuff particularly. What I'm really happy about is that the car works, and there's very little reason for it not to go through an MOT now. It doesn't lose any coolant, it doesn't burn any oil, and actually after that rather long trip I had, I've also found out it's very good on fuel for what it is, which means that I'm unlikely to have any issues with the emissions. But you might be wanting me to just backtrack a little bit and explain why now suddenly the horn works. Well, the horn not working was the reason I took off the front bumper in the first place, to find out whether it had gone wrong. I tested it and I found out, well, actually it worked. The horn worked, I tried another one, that worked. But it wasn't getting the electricity through. So the assumption was fuse, relay, but the horn still didn't work. So again, I checked all the obvious things, and the steering wheel connections, and also the clock spring, and ended up coming to the conclusion that it must be an actual fault within the wiring, within the circuitry of the BCU itself. But Senior Mustard came down, didn't he? And he asked the question, does the horn actually work? And I said, yeah, it does. He said, well, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I tested it. In fact, didn't I test it on this video? Anyway, Senior Mustard, being Senior Mustard, wouldn't really just accept that and tested it himself and found it didn't work, which was rather strange, because that means that the one bip that I got out of this horn when I directly wired it to a battery must have been its last ever go. So now the horn's been replaced, it works. I think Mr. Senior Mustard deserves a pat on the back and a beer, and a nod, a wink, a belly rub, and a wink and a doff of the hat.